For this project, I got this animal print fabric in 2 yards. I have my measuring tape, some chalk, ruler and scissors. To begin, I folded my fabric into 2 right sides facing. Next, I'll be taking my body point measurement, my bust, waist, hip and the length as well. So this is my bust line, my waistline, my hip, and the length is over there at the bottom right there. That's the length. So this right here is the front plan. We'll be working on the front plan first, and to get my bust, waist and hip, this is different from what I normally do, and since it's going to be like an off shoulder kind of situation, I subtracted 4 inches from starting from that hem line or that margin line at the top there. So I put 4 inches right on that line and measured my bust point down, my hip, my waist and the length as well. So instead of marking from 1 inch or taking my measurement from 1 inch to get my bust point, my waist and my hip, I am starting from 4 inch. So I'm going to subtract 4 inch from my bust point, my waist point and my hip point, just so that is clear. And the reason I'm doing this is because this is not coming all the way from my shoulder. I find that when I subtract 4 inches for off shoulder garments, it's a lot easier as opposed to when I just mark my initial 12 or 11 inches bust point on the garment. So from that line there, I'll be taking my shoulder width next. And to take my shoulder width, my original shoulder width is 7 inches. That's half of my shoulder width, but I won't be taking 7 inches. I'll be using 9 inches, and that is because I want the front neckline to be wider. So that's to create the cowl effect on the front. So I'll be marking 9 inches on that shoulder line. Having marked 9 inches, this is what it looks like. Then a quarter of my bust measurement happens to be 9, but I won't be using 9, I'll be using 10 inches. So I'm just going to add 1 inch to that and connect it to that shoulder line or shoulder mark that we just created earlier, and just connect everything together. So having connected the bust to the shoulder, this is what it looks like until it's 1 inch wider at that bust area. Next, I'm going to take a quarter of my waist, a quarter of my hip, ensuring to add 1 inch all the way around it. And I'll be adding 1 inch because I'll be using ½ inch for seam, then ½ inch for ease on either side. So that's why I'm adding 1 inch. And this is what it looks like on the waist, the hip, all the way to the bottom. And this is our front plan basically. Next, I'm going to cut it out so we have our front plan ready. Okay, now for the back, I basically folded a fabric into 2 again, and it's shorter from the shoulder. It's shorter, it's just a few inches, it's just 2 inches above that armhole line for the front. So I just placed the front plan on top, and I'll be using it to trace or to as a guide to cut around the sides. Then the back rather is actually wider because I've been inserting a zipper there, so that's why the back is wider on the side, the center back. Next, I'm just going to cut the interfacing for the front piece and the back piece as well. Do remember I have 2 back pieces each. So this is my front plan laid out here. I went ahead to cut out the interfacing that would be used to turn the neckline as well as the armhole for the front plan, and this is the interfacing for the front. So these pieces right here would be used as the straps for the shoulder. They measure ½ inch wide and 12 inch long. So I'll be folding this over, like fold it right sides facing, then turn it out towards the right side and attach it to the shoulder. And this is what it looks like after it is turned. And before I turn the neckline for the front, I'm just going to place each strap on either side of the front neckline, ensuring to give about ½ inch seam or ½ inch allowance for seam. Then I would place the facing or the turner for the front right sides facing onto the main fabric, or onto the main fabric for our front piece. And I'm just going to align it properly. Then I'll be sewing from one end of the armhole like this, from one end here all the way to the top of the neckline, down the other part of the neckline, and down the other armhole. So I'm not sewing the sides at this point. I won't be sewing the sides at all, just from one armhole all the way to the top of the neck, down the other armhole, or down the other neckline, and stop at the end of the other armhole. For the back, I already fixed my invisible zipper. So what I'll do is to open up the center back, open up the zipper and the zipper allowance. Then I'll place my toner right side facing onto each piece. Then I'm just going to sew. I'm not sewing from the edge here. I'll be sewing right on top the zip, like right on top the zip allowance. And I'll be sewing from that point to the top of the neckline, towards the other side of the neckline, and down the armhole as well. Basically the same thing we did for the front. The only difference is that we'll be sewing on top the zipper for each side of the back. So this is what the front piece looks like after it has been turned. You can see that the straps are in between the main fabric and the toner that we used, and this is the front and this is the wrong side of the garment. Then for the back, I basically cut open a little bit at the top of the neckline, basically where we just stitched the toner through, just so I can insert the straps at the back of the garment as well. And this is what the invisible zipper looks like. At this point, I'm just going to place the front piece and the back piece right sides facing and insert the straps into that little opening that we have on the back neckline, and just stitch it close. So I want to ensure that the straps are all hidden in between and no rough edges are showing from the wrong side or from the back as well as the front. So I'm just going to go do that and show you guys what it looks like. After joining the straps, I went ahead to take my side measurement and overlocking the bottom edges as well. Next, I'm just going to fold in that bottom edge and show you guys. Then we'll be passing a strap on one side of the garment, so we'll be creating a passage for the strap after folding in the bottom hem. So this is what it looks like after the bottom hem has been sewn. I cut a slit on my waistline just on that point. I didn't cut past the stitch on the side. So what we'll be doing, we'll be using that to serve as a guide to where we'll be passing our straps through. So what I'll be doing is to fold each allowance to the right side, and what that means is the allowance on the left, I'll be bending it over to the left side and stitching it down onto the main garment, and the allowance on the right, I'll be bending it over to the right side and stitching it onto the main garment like this. So I'll be doing this from that point we just created a slit all the way to this bottom edge here. I'll be closing this opening at this point. This was basically to help me fold the bottom hem. So I'll be closing this little opening, then fold the allowance to either side and stitch it down to create a passage. So these are the straps that will be passing through that passage we just created, and that is basically it, you guys. So this is the final look. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.